Thanks for coming, everyone. Today we're going to hear Jill Vogel from OpenCraft and Felipe Montoya from Edunex talking to us about aspects. So, over to you guys.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session. It's titled, I Didn't Know You Could Do That with Aspects, because we're going to be focusing on the extensibility aspect of aspects today. This is a presentation on behalf of the Data Working Group. So this was a community effort. And it's going to be a little technical, probably near the end, but I'm hoping that the content that we present for most of it will be relevant to educators and administrators, as well as the developers and operators that might be running the system. So yeah, as I said, our focus is on extending. We're not going to be showcasing what aspects can do just out of the box. If you want to see that, we've got demo servers and there's documentation available and there's links at the end for that. But yeah, because we know that there's no way that we can possibly cover every use case that everyone's going to have for the platform, and definitely not for analytics. Everybody has their own reporting needs and their own internal organizational things that they need to do. But before we get started, I thought it was really important to thank everybody that's been involved in this effort, specifically EDU Next. Absolutely fantastic amount of effort that they've put into this. Lots of talented people and a lot of time. And so I'm not going to name everybody, but there was a lot of development and project management and documentation and ideas for extensions and everything. Just fantastic. Axum, of course, is pivotal to this as well. Chelsea has been our product owner this year, and just collating all the use cases, finding out what everybody needs, and making sure that what we're building is actually going to be useful. I can't even emphasize how important that's been to the project. Brian, of course, has the vision. He couldn't make it today, so we're presenting on his behalf, and hopefully we'll do him justice. But yeah, and Sarah Burns is the newest hire on the data team as well, and she's been working on the charts and things, and so many other people. Thank you so much. So here's our agenda. If anybody's interested in the slides, wants to follow along, off you go. So we're going to start with what is aspects. I don't know how many of you last year might have seen our talk. Then it was called the ORS system. It was a reference implementation, and that was basically a prototype of just kind of getting all the pieces put together to make sure that it was going to do what we thought it was going to do. And literally in the last year, it has been advanced into version 1. And so, yeah, spectacular. So yeah, we've moved away from the acronym system. We decided to follow TCRL on that and move to a real name instead of using the acronym. But Aspects is a batteries included set of configurations and plugins which combine third-party tools into a powerful and flexible system for real-time learner analytics. So I'll break that down. By batteries included, we mean that it's designed to work straight out of the box. By set of configurations and plugins, it's a small set of code to maintain. It does a lot, but we didn't have to write very much of it. Third-party tools, those are the software systems. They live outside of OpenEdX, like Apache's Superset and ClickHouse as a database. So well-established industry-standard tools that we've chained together to use for this analytics system. They're used by larger companies than us and larger communities than us as well. And so they've got a good track record. ClickHouse is getting there, but it's a really powerful database. We're excited about it. We prefer open source options, obviously, as an open source community. But it also means that we can submit fixes or feature enhancements or anything else that we need these systems to do that they don't do yet. And so that's been a wonderful thing. And powerful and flexible. It was designed to be scaled or to allow pieces of it to be swapped out with equivalent pieces. So you can run it exactly as you need to. And the goal of Aspects is to help course staff and administrators understand how learners are interacting with their content. Aspects is a community-built and supported free open source replacement for Insights. I don't know if anybody else here is happy to hear that Insights has been deprecated, but Oh man. Speaking of systems that could not be extended, like it would take so much time just to write one new report, and this one's a lot quicker. And as of Redwood, we have version 1. And so we're pleased about that. All right, Aspects is also, it is event-driven. By that we mean it's fast. So it's not running on batch processes. The data flows through as things happen. It's deployable. It's a tutor plugin and a platform plugin. That's it. It's localizable. All of the labels and charts and things that the users see have been extracted and can be translated. That's another thing that Christian from EDU Next designed. It's life-cycled, so we can rotate your data and meet data privacy compliance requirements. It's scalable. We've got, Brian did a lot of load testing work to make sure that the charts can load even when you've got billions of rows. It is well documented, and even better documented since since the efforts of EDU Next recently. And there'll be links at the end to that documentation as well. And it's extensible, which is the rest of what this talk is about. Take it away.
Yeah, so hi, hello everybody. We at EDU get a lot of the spotlight for having worked on this, but sometimes we do core community work and sometimes we're working on behalf of others. And in this case, we were working on behalf of the Unidigital project because as we were selected as the providers for that project, we turned around to see, we went around shopping for options to do proper and robust analytics, and we found Aspects, which was it was in a seed stage at that point, so we decided to jump fully in on that project. And I introduced with that because I want to highlight that when we're doing work on behalf of someone else, we need to think about the who. So I'd like to introduce the Unidigital project, and for that it joins us on stage Ignacio, who was the lead of the universities that joined together.
Hi, I'm Nacho Espujol from Universitat Politécnica de Valencia in Spain, and I was leading a project of several public universities in Spain, all the public universities in the Madrid region and my university, to add on-campus capabilities to OpenEDX. We prepared a tender, and EduNext won the bid. So it had something like 17 different sub-projects, and one of the most important was having better analytics, because insights can give you a good idea for one course, but it's very bad if you want to see the aggregated data for several courses, if you are an administrator. And if you are a teacher and you want to know about how each student is doing, is not that good. Even if you are a student and want to know how you are doing compared with your with the rest of the class, is not a very good tool. So we specified what we wanted, several panels. And one thing that we wanted for all the project is that it was accepted by the community. We didn't want other things that we have seen, that people has financed something and next version everything was in a fork and is lost. So with Felipe and with Juan Camilo, we were very focused on doing it in a way that was integrated with the community. So that's why we told them to look for what was going to go, and they decided to go to Aspects. For us, it was very important to be able to develop all the panels that we need, but also that it is able to add new panels if we need them, that we have access to the data, and then we can have, if not completely real time, almost real time is enough for students to follow. They don't need to see a video and get the data immediately, but that you have it in several minutes. And the solution that Felipe told us, and then we were involved in several updates through the on-campus working group that is now integrated in the product working group. So for us, the solution was a very good option. So we decided to go with that and left them work. Now we are finishing the panels, and what is very good is that it's very flexible, and if you need some change, it's quite easy to adapt it. And with it, I think that Felipe will introduce you to different created panels and the process that they have followed.
Thank you, Nacho. Yeah, so with that in mind, I want to show you the use cases that we implemented on top of aspects. As Jill said, these are not the dashboards that you will find out of the box. You will find them, and they're public, and you can find them in that link and the QR as well, and I'll link that through the presentation. But the idea is that on the topic of data analytics, everyone understands their courses differently, and everyone understands their requirements differently. So those use cases that Nacho mentioned, those were specific for these universities wanting to understand data in this way, and we didn't want to compromise on that. We did compromise on a lot of other things around the technology, but the final panels needed to be very close or almost exactly what the project required. So we start with this aggregated data for an academic administrator, someone that wants to see data through different courses. And with that, we have this aggregation panel that shows you stuff like everything in the total number of students, the amount of courses, a list of all your courses, and so on and so forth. And with aspects, we can define different. The red arrow is where I was about to click because I didn't know if I was going to have a mouse or just a clicker. So I wanted to show you that. But we have different panels with different tabs where we can explore data differently. So we can have graphs, we can have detailed data, time evolution. We can even have comparison between courses. And these panels are scrollable. So if I were to scroll, I would just continue seeing different dashboards of data that presents it in a different way. Because finally, some instructor or some academic administrator is going to, through looking at these charts, trying to understand what's going on with their courses. And we wanted to allow for them. So we also have, that was an aggregated panel. Now we have a instructor panel, one that's geared towards the person. So they might have more than one course, but they still want to see comparisons.
Felipe, one thing from the former panel is that you can select several courses, and then the data you get is not for one course, not for the whole courses, but for a subset of them.
Absolutely. I will show this, I think it's either in this panel or the next, the filtering capabilities. But yeah, the idea is that as developers of the dashboards and the graphs that you're looking, we are not deciding what you look at. We're just deciding the presentation form, and then you decide how this is going to be filtered. So here, for instance, or at the rankings, if I click on a specific student, but I could be doing the same at the course, I will get the filtering, and perhaps if I go back, you will see up here the filters apply for all the charts and all the lists in the same view. So the moment I filter this student, this example student, I will see both the courses that he has, and I can continue navigating different tabs. And at that, I will continue seeing just those filters. Because if I click up there on the left, then I will access the filter panel where I can continue filtering by this, or perhaps filter even more, going deeper down the rabbit hole, or up again and just removing filters until that makes sense. Since we're showcasing the extension capabilities, I also wanted to show this downloads, it's descargas in Spanish, but this downloads tab, where we had a specific XBlock that does tracking of the files a student downloads. These are from the files and uploads page, but they are presented in a different way. And in the next block, we create a specific transformation, an XAPI transformation, so that we can present specific data to the ClickHouse database and then read it from here. And Jill is going to explain the technical details of that. But I wanted to show that even if this isn't the prettiest way of showing that, but you have that capability now, having a specific course units that tailor specific data tracking events that you can later filter and see through the information that you already have. We also had a specific ranking view for students. You can see this as if you enter as a course instructor, you will see plenty of students, and you can as well filter through the different views. But normally a student could be looking at their graph, say my ranking within the rest of the students of my course. Here we are highlighting something like my own visits to the course, comparing that to the average of the course. And all these panels can be accessed both from the superset domain, but they can also be embedded in the course. So instructors can see them in the instructor dashboard, because there is a plugin extension point hook just for that, but there is also an XBlock implementation so that you can put that in the courseware. So at certain points in the course, the students could be looking at their data compared to other courses. And then, again, to highlight the capabilities of extension, we created this desertion prevention dashboard, and this was technically quite complicated because each course has different metrics that they might want to track, and we wanted to create an indicator of commitment to the course. But for some courses, commitment might mean solving all the problems, and for a different course that might mean spending a lot of time in the forums. And we needed that for the way that we created that index, we needed the weights to add up to 100. And so we created filters that are dynamic in a way that whatever way you try to put these filters, they will always add to 100. So if I can select all the options here, next I wouldn't be able to select something that doesn't up to 100. But this also has the technical risk that no one understands what you're looking at. So I wanted to show something more that was on each graph. If you click this semi-hamburger menu right here, you can always go to show the chart description. And by that I mean putting some information that will help instructors understand what they're looking at. And that's kind of just a quick overview that wanted to show advanced capabilities all over the platform. The original dashboards are there for download. They are open source. They won't be pre-installed if you install Aspects today, but it's just a matter of downloading a JSON file and uploading it again. So I hope that some of you will at least give them a try, and then start from there and probably create your own dashboards, and then I hope share them back with the community. And we started with dessert because we wanted everyone to feel a little excited about why is this even worth it, not just the technical bits, but we are getting to the technical bits. So now we have to talk a little bit about the architecture of Aspects, and then Jill will take it on how to extend it. We're going to be looking at this from very far eagle's eye view. We have about a three-layer process for this. The first part is the data ingestion. So we have the regular LMS and Studio where things happen. So students and authors take action, any sort of action, that generates an event that we were previously writing to a log and mostly forgetting about that. Now, it's taken from that log, is reformatted in a standard way, that's XAPI, and then is sent to the analytics pipeline. There are more than tracking logs. We also have event syncs that sync complete tables in the database, because doing count on the number of events is very inefficient. And we also added the commands for backfilling data. So if you've been storing your tracking logs for a while and you don't know what to do with them, now you can ingest them in Aspects and start seeing data even from before that you installed. Now, the second layer is around data transformation. This happens mostly in ClickHouse, using both the ClickHouse database, but also something called DBT models, which are ways, is a different open source project that does data transformation. And in particular, ClickHouse has several ways of storing data, but we're using something called materialized views. That's part of the technical implementation, and that creates data that it will be possible to consume by someone that knows about data, even if they don't know about OpenEdX. So, and this is just from the project, from the dashboards that you saw. Those were built by a team that was largely consisting on one full-time person and 2 others in like a consulting capability or just partial time. And the one person was a data analyst. She didn't know from before, she didn't know that much about aspects. She didn't know anything about aspects, and she knew very little about OpenEdX, but she could understand tables and she could understand data visualizations. And she could make sense of what the developer helping her, Christian, who's like a powerhouse of coding, he could build tables, but the moment we asked him to produce nice graphs, he was like, I hate this. I absolutely hate this. I don't want to do one more. And that's when a proper data analyst came in, and she was like, I love this. And this is the sort of skills you find in the real world. So we're happy that you don't need to be an OpenEdX expert anymore to actually make sense of this. Because that's the final layer, data display. So we can create dashboards such as those that I just showed, and we can embed those dashboards both in the LMS or have like a specific website, the superset domain, where you can go and look at all the unfiltered data, and even have like an SQL labs sort of place where you can go craft your own SQL queries and run them. So very, very powerful architecture that allows sort of the sort of dashboards that I just presented. Yeah, so now we'll see how to actually do that.
Cool. So yeah, I'm going to talk about how we can extend aspects. So there's a bunch of different points inside the application, and also, where am I? How do I get my mouse back here?
Sorry.
I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, no, here it is.
Oh, thank you. Cheers. Cool.
Maybe I went
yeah,
one
I
too
think
far.
we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So going back to the data architecture diagram that we saw previously, the first stage of data ingestion, all of those little stars are kind of like places where you can extend stuff. So we've got the tracking log events. You can add your own tracking log events, trigger those. You can decide how to serialize them into XAPI. The event syncs, so tracking logs are really good for lots, high volume data. So user clicks a button, you can get a tracking log event. User answers a problem, tracking log event. But if you want to do things, if you need context information in your charts, like you want to know the course structure because you want to report how many people have answered the problems in your course, and you want to see it in the kind of structure that you're expecting from your course. That data, because it's not updated as often, it's more appropriate to use an event sync, which is basically just a database sync between the two. So we can have that data copied into Aspects and maintained between the two systems, but then using it in Aspects doesn't affect the performance of your LMS. We also have vector sync. So vector is another part of the architecture of Aspects. It's basically a big pipe, but you can use that to, if you have other external systems where you want to pipe your information to. I spoke to somebody earlier who had a use case of they want to send events to Salesforce. And so there's a Salesforce extension for Vector, and you can basically send out all of this information there as well. We're also talking about trying to extend Aspects to do log aggregation and monitoring, that kind of thing, like whether or not it's appropriate to use this system or at least parts of the system for that kind of information as well. The third part, data transformation and storage. So you can create your own SQL transforms and aggregations using dbt. You can add in any data source, basically any database that you want to talk to. ClickHouse knows how to talk to it. And so you can't necessarily join tables between ClickHouse and those things, but you can at least access that for extra information. ClickHouse also has an HTTP interface. The ADSB exposed site that's linked here is actually, it's like It's a direct JavaScript to ClickHouse visualization of flight patterns across the world. So like you can look at it and see where are all the helicopters over Cape Town right now. And it's yeah, really good at high volume and really good at speed. Ralph is another component of Aspects. It's a learning record store. So basically anything that knows how to talk XAPI, you want to talk to Ralph, and it does that through an HTTP interface. So the visualization stage is the third bit. So we use Superset for that. It's an Apache product. Apache product. It also supports over 20 different database, and anything that ClickHouse can connect to as well. It could also be used for, like if you wanted to connect in external stuff, you could display information from e-commerce or something like that. Or you could pull like demographic data or geographical information or any sort of external data that you need to pull in. You can also create custom data sets and aggregate functions and custom dashboards and charts. So Aspect ships with a number of dashboards and charts. We don't really have a good way to let you change those charts and those dashboards. I think maintenance of those changes would be really painful, but you can copy paste and basically take a chart that you like, copy it into yours, and then make changes there, and then maintain that. Oh, thanks. We're moving. Okay. So I'm going to go into a bit of detail of a particular case study for extending Aspects. And Andrew Canyon from EDU Next was responsible for alerting us to this particular use case, and he provided the initial code as well. So as a course author, I want to know which sections of my course learners are struggling to complete so that I can improve this content. So most of you are probably familiar with the completion plugin in the platform. It's responsible for those beautiful little green ticks that you get when you've completed a bit of content in the course. Very good motivator for students as well. It basically concentrates on completing blocks. So the only thing it cares about is like you've read a bit of HTML or text, sorry, or you've answered a problem or the fundamental parts of the course. But for this question, we're asking about what about the sections that those bits of content are in. So to find out about completion on those, we're going to need a plugin. But luckily, we have a plugin. OpenCraft developed a completion aggregator, so it cares about completion for the units, subsections, sections, and the course. And basically, it updates a record every time you do anything in the course. It gets a completion. When it gets a little completion hit from the completion plugin, it looks at the course structure and figures out how much of the containing parts you've completed. So I'm going to speed through this if I can. So for this particular unit, we've got text and 3 questions in there. When you've read the text, oh, it's not working. Oh, bummer. Okay, yeah. So when you read the text unit, a little bit of the unit gets marked complete. So its completion progress is like 25%. The subsection above it gets completed, and the section and the course. And so basically, as we move through completing all the pieces, yay. You get a little bit more progress and a little bit more every time you complete until the unit above is fully complete. And so what we wanted to do was make it so that we're not just updating a database record when this happens. We have a tracking event that gets triggered so that we can visualize that in Aspects. So there's basically 5 steps required to add custom tracking log events and have them show up in Aspects. The first is emitting the tracking event. You got to decide what do you want to send and when do you want to send it. Then we need to transform that event into XAPI. We need to route that XAPI event to Aspects. We're probably going to want a materialized view of some sort to have an efficient query so that we can view that data in the charts, and then we need to visualize it. Sounds like a lot, but there really are a lot of helpers for this. So the first three items you can do with the platform plugin. The next one we can do with DBT, and the final one we can do with Superset. So because because the completion aggregator is already a platform plugin. Basically what we needed to do was bring in 2 of the platform libraries. So we've got the event tracking library that knows how to event tracking logs. And then we've got the event routing backends, which has been developed as a part, I think it existed before Aspects, and so we used it, but it's been developed extensively since Aspects has been created. It's good for transforming tracking logs into XAPI. It's got a registry for those transformers, so that when it gets an event in, it knows which one to call to do the transform. And then it also handles configuration for routing those events as well. And most importantly, from my perspective, it also has tests, really beautiful tests. So you just have a file that has your tracking log in it, a file that says this is what I want the XAPI to look like, and you just hook it up and the tests run, and you know that your code is doing exactly what you need it to do. Dang. Okay. So for the DBT layer, so with the completion aggregator, we're getting progress events all the time. So you complete a block and you get up to 4 progress events because of the course structure there. But really, we only care about the most complete one. We don't need to see all the ones that went into it, just need to see the latest. And so one of the things we can do with DBT is using nested queries and things that look like they would be terrible to run in real time and would be terrible to run in real time. It creates a view of that data that is actually efficient to query, and anything that comes in gets pushed through those views so that we can see them in the charts. And the next final step is visualization. Superset is great for creating, it's got a visual interface for creating new charts. It lets you, there's SQL interfaces for trying to query your data, and you can create all of these things and get them looking exactly how you want, and then export them, save them to your source code, and then import them again whenever you need to deploy the system. And so, yeah. Can create these charts. Okay. Oop. A little eager. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I've got reference links at the end there. Happy to talk about any of those or anything that came up while we were speaking. Hello.
Do we have to be running Redwood to run Aspects?
No, not really. So
Yeah,
I know we did test it.
Yeah, I want to say,
Yeah.
we've tested it down to nutmeg. And if you are skilled enough to take parts of this body and connect it to this and make it a Frankenstein, it works with nutmeg, then olive palm, quince. But if you are not connecting a Frankenstein, we suggest using Redwood. Yeah, that's the official answer. Only Redwood, but we know it works.
One of the reasons that we use tracking logs as the base data is those tracking logs have been with us forever, and they haven't really changed format. Or if they do, then yeah, who knows what broke. But that's so that we could have backwards. No, we did not. So you should be able to import your old tracking logs into the system. Yes.
I don't think you showed it, but you alluded to an X block that would display one of the dashboards. And I'm wondering if that can also be customizable. So, like in your example of the completion log, there'd be a way to share that dashboard in an X block.
Absolutely. So the X block itself, you configure it to say which dashboard you want it to embed. And so if you have a special dashboard that you want to put into your course, you can just use the X block and tell it this dashboard, your UID, and that's what it'll show. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Quick questions. We used Cayenne before in many projects. What is the difference, or is to understand aspect as a substitution of Cayenne, or looks very similar for me? If you can elaborate a little bit more on the tools.
Do you know?
Karen.
Oh, Karen. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so the technologies that Karen uses and that Open Aspects uses are very similar. At some point of the project, we tried to join those two as much as we could, and then we also diverged a little bit. So the way Aspects connects and manages the users is very different, but technology-wise, we are looking basically at the same stack. So it depends, because Kayan has a different maintenance model. And we cannot guarantee how that would evolve, but we would like to see them joining, evolving towards being closer together than farther apart.
Yeah. One of the reasons why we went down the route that we did was there's a use case for XAPI. Adaptive learning is one of those phrases that we haven't heard for a few years, but XAPI is basically the language that's supported for most adaptive learning systems. And since Karen was mainly around tracking logs, but we really needed things to be XAPI as soon as possible throughout the system. So, but yeah.
I have a question about anonymized data, especially because Felipe knows a bit of our use case, but we have basically. We want to have dashboards for the organizations that use our platform, but we will also need a dashboard for everyone. So aggregated data for the public, and we have also a lot of issues with GDPR and the usage of this data. So is it all configurable via supersets? Can we choose to show or not show, like tokenize something like that, the user data, so it is anonymized? Have you any idea of how this can be done?
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
So anonymization was very important for the Unidigital project as well. So that was top of mind from the get-go. And how it works is most data, it uses an actor ID which is completely anonymized. And there is one table that says this actor ID translates to this other user. And filling or not that table is a configurable parameter. So you can say, I want to have all data but the identifiable information, and then you are safe in terms of GDPR, and this is anonymized completely, absolutely. Now, the dashboards themselves, they don't, we cannot customize them in that way. So you would need to have a dashboard for data with personal identifier information and one for not, and probably show one or the other, or if you're only having anonymized data, then the dashboards that use the username or the email will probably fail or won't show anything. But you're still compliant, and you can still take any other dashboard that works, that is presented. Just delete the part that reads the email and put it on your system, and it should work.
Can I have a dashboard without authentication? Or do I need to have an account to see the data?
You have to have an account. Yeah, we need to know who you are before we can show you anything, basically. Yeah.
For the most part, you need, if you're using the plugin that lets you insert data in other places, like the instructor panel, you could use the same mechanism to show this to someone who's unauthenticated, because from the superset point of view, you are authenticated, you are the LMS, or you are your system. And then you could show that to someone who's not authenticated, but it doesn't come out of the box. It's a possible use case for extension, definitely, but it's not done yet.
There's also data lifecycling, which I think is part of GDPR, just making sure that we don't really want to be keeping everybody's data forever. Don't we? Isn't that yeah. So getting used to the idea that data should be rotated, that we should basically have a moving window of what we care about today, and then we can toss the rest or aggregate it and just show those aggregations, yeah.
An additional question, do you have experience using that? When you have to load, for example, all the data, let's say you have 100,000 users, you want to compare course completion, something like that. Is it the dashboard, are they loading, or is it I don't know, you have to load 100 by 100 or something like that. Do you have some experience in that? Loading a lot of data regarding performance.
Paginated?
Yeah, so we have done extensive testing with up to billions of rows, and that's one of the reasons we selected ClickHouse, because it was a really fast database for that kind of query. ClickHouse is very fast. Selecting one individual row and deleting it or updating it, then ClickHouse is super expensive. So it's optimized for querying large data sets. Now, I don't know if that was your whole question, or if it also had to do with backfilling the data. If you have stored it for years and just now you install aspects and you want to have that, there are commands for backfilling this information. Sometimes, and what we have seen with the experience of installing this in customer installations, is that some things might fail. Like, it's not the 100% of your old data that will make it into, but it's a solid 95+% of your data that will be correctly ingested.
I mean, real time loading.
Sorry?
Is that something about real time?
Felipe, now I meant real time loading, not backfilling.
Yes, absolutely. Nacho mentioned that they would have been happy with a system that updates a few minutes afterwards, but it's more like a few seconds. So the moment something happens, you immediately see it in your dashboards, provided that you have a strong enough server for your ClickHouse database, which we all know, if you have large amount of traffic, then you also need to have a correspondingly large server for ClickHouse, but otherwise it works within seconds.
Quick question. So, you know, Philippi, that we in our case we use multi-tenant, and I'm not sure how Superset gonna work with that. We need to populate a different dashboard for each tenant, and is that something that you guys worked on? I know that we used Superset as a main dashboard for our project, but in terms of multi-tenancy, what is the work in that regard, and is it applicable for that?
So multi-tenancy is, you need to have a way of filtering at some point. Normally, at the application, we filter with the domain, and that's the primary way we accomplish multi-tenancy, is by filtering per the domain. And in the application, we match this domain to courses, and we match this domain to enrollments and to any other thing. So in Superset, you would be filtering at the level of courses. So normally you have the enrollment there. So if you know the organization, which you know because it's written in the course ID, if you know the organization, you can filter by like all these dashboards, but just for this organization or for that organization, and that is not the exact same tenant as it was per the domain, but you can configure it to only show the relevant data to whoever is watching.
That's our time for today. Do we have one last question? All right, well, let's give a big round of applause to these guys.
Thank you very much.